Welcome back. Tonight, we're putting the spotlight on a lawyer used to facing the media for her clients. Gloria Allred has become a prominent figure, particularly in recent years with the Me Too movement. She's represented the victims of Harvey Weinstein, Peter Nygard, and Roman Polanski. But her work for women's rights goes back much further. She spoke with Travis about her life, career, and advocacy.
Prominent women's rights advocate and attorney Gloria Allred joins me now from Los Angeles. Gloria, so good to see you. You know, I was watching your documentary on Netflix last night, Seeing Allred, and I highly recommend it if folks have not seen it. It just gives an incredible kind of retrospective of your life to this point, and what an incredible life you have had. I want to start by this, a quote that you said in that documentary. You said, "I live in a war zone every day. There's a war on women, and it's real, and it can be very ugly." Tell me where we are right now in that war.
It's so interesting, Travis, that you mentioned my Netflix documentary and that quote from it, because one of the producers of the documentary said at the time, "I don't understand what you mean by there's a war on women, I live in a war zone for women." She said, and then a few years later, she said, "Gloria, now I understand what you meant." So I can tell you what I meant was that, for example, there has been a substantial and continuing battle in the United States to roll back what was a legal right, a constitutional right to choose safe, legal, affordable, available abortions in the United States. We enjoyed that right for 50 years almost, from 1973, Roe v. Wade decision, until the United States Supreme Court changed its composition of justices, and then former President Trump appointed extreme right-wing justices, and now we no longer have abortion as a constitutional right. Many states now also want to outlaw contraception. Well, so this is why we're in a war zone.
Yeah, I want to jump way back to when you met Midge McKenzie, the author of a book about the suffragettes. And that was around the same time that you were beginning law. She inspired you to dedicate your life to standing up for women. Tell me a little bit about that interaction and why that was so impactful for you.
Yes, and that was back in the 70s, and she had written a book which is called Shoulder to Shoulder, which was turned into a documentary in the UK, and then it was shown over here in the United States. I don't know if it was ever shown in Canada. I hope it was, because it's very empowering and inspiring. But what I can say is I met her when she was on a tour, and she said to me, "Gloria, you know, what I've done in Shoulder to Shoulder is to show the history of how women were so brave and fought to win the right to vote, suffrage, in the UK, and many spoke out. Some, you know, families were broken up over it. Women were hauled off to jail for protesting that they didn't have the right to vote." She said, "You have to continue to help women to have a voice about what is wrong in their lives and the laws that are unjust that exist in order for us to help to win change." And I thought about it, and so I decided, yes, we have to break the silence, because we need to let governmental officials know that women vote now, and they have to know what the wrongs are against women in order to right those wrongs.
You have quite the reputation, and you know, this reputation, it goes to, you know, things like you in 1981 in the State Senate committee hearing, you gave the late Senator John Schmitz a chastity belt. You know, you've been criticized before and in the past for, you know, a very public approach that puts attention on some of these issues. Why do you do that?
Well, I did that then because he was a state senator. He had previously been a member of the John Birch Society, which is extreme right-wing organization. And he was holding a hearing in Los Angeles on the issue of making it illegal to have an abortion in California. In other words, changing the state constitution. And so I went there. I knew Senator Schmitz. I knew his wife. I gave serious testimony about how I almost died from an illegal abortion. And then I took this chastity belt and went up to the stage where he was sitting with other elected officials. And I said, take this home to your wife, Mary, because we're not going back to the days, you know, when women were controlled and had their reproductive systems controlled by their husbands, who, when the husbands went off to war, they would make the women wear these chastity belts so they wouldn't be able to have sex with anybody else. I mean, this is just outrageous what he was trying to do then. It did spoil, you know, from his point of view, the coverage of, you know, whether it should be unconstitutional to have an abortion in California. But it accomplished my goal of getting a lot of attention for what he was trying to do. And I would say most people in California didn't know that that's what he was trying to do. And they needed to know so they could fight against it. And ultimately, he was unsuccessful.
And so sometimes do you think those kind of very public stunts are necessary to draw attention?
I think we need to do what we can do for the public to be educated about the issues.
Right.
And, you know, I don't always do it. In fact, I rarely do it, but I don't apologize for anything I do because I've thought about it before I do it. So for this week, for example,
right,
I did a big news conference about the lawsuit we filed on behalf of one of my clients who alleges she's an adult survivor of child sexual abuse by Roman Polanski, okay? And she was there and she spoke, and I spoke about why we filed the lawsuit, you know, how we were able to serve him in France at his home, so he has notice of the lawsuit, and now we're litigating the lawsuit, and talked about, you know, what she alleges in her lawsuit. So look, we have to bring attention to what's going on, you know, how the rich, the famous, you know, the powerful are committing many types of injustices against women. We have to fight back against this. And unless the public knows what's wrong, they won't know how to right the wrong.
Of all of the high-profile, high-level cases that you have been involved in, is there one victory that stands out for you, a most, you know, dramatic step towards equality? Well,
you know, I would say people ask me what's my most important case, and I say my last case, my present case, and my future case. You know, I have a client right now who was one of the victims in Canada of Peter Nygaard.
Right.
And I had taken her to the police, law enforcement, to report it. I was told by Canadian authorities, and it happened to her in Canada, that she needed to go to the police in Los Angeles where she lives. And so we did report it to them. She was very brave. We're calling her Jane Doe still. And then the law enforcement in Canada transmitted it to Canadian authorities. And there was a prosecution. She was one of the victims in that recent case in Canada. And he was convicted of, you know, the charge against him. And so the sentencing, I know, is coming up in Canada soon. You know, she's just been so brave throughout. But, you know, I think I had at least small role in helping her to achieve a measure of justice and become empowered. And, you know, I'm just very proud of her and all the others who testified.
I want to talk to you about Harvey Weinstein. I know that your firm in 2004 helped negotiate a settlement for one of Weinstein's victims. And you know, that settlement kind of barred that woman from speaking out about her assault. She then wanted to speak out about the assault. What do you think about these kind of settlements where women are told that they can't really speak out? And what has your perspective been, and has it changed since 2004?
Well, first of all, that's reported, and I'm not commenting on it. whether it's true or not. But I will say I did represent the key prosecution witness in the criminal case against Mr. Weinstein in New York City. And Mr. Weinstein was convicted of criminal sexual assault against my client, whose name she's given me permission to say, and that's Mimi Haley. We do confidential settlements for individuals, I'm going to say almost every day, every week in our law firm for somebody. A confidential settlement is an option for a person who would like to have her privacy. I know, Travis, that so many women go on the internet and they accuse celebrities of things, and you know, if they want to have their voice, God bless them, they have every right to do it. Of course, they take the risk of being sued by the celebrity, and that sometimes happens.
Right.
But many would like to have their privacy. They don't want their mother to know they were raped. They don't want, their sister, their grandma, their aunt, their uncle, their dad to know that they were raped, or their coworkers or their community. And that's their right. But please understand that I'm there to support my client in what she wants. I'm not there to represent the press and say, oh no, everything should be public, and go around and try to get people to violate their confidentiality agreements, as was done with many victims of Harvey Weinstein, where certain journalists went around to their homes and tried to tell them how important it was for them to violate their agreements. But I'm there to support my client.
I mean, the criticism has been like that this helps abusers cover up their alleged crimes. What do you say to that?
There's an answer to that. First of all, and I'm glad you raised that question, Travis. It is a matter of law and public policy that no confidentiality agreement can prohibit a victim from going to law enforcement, reporting, making a police report, and testifying in a criminal case. Even if she, obtained, let's say, 2 million, 3 million, we obtained quite a significant results in our confidential agreements. But even though they're confidential, there is an exception always. They can always go and, make the police report and testify in a criminal case if it's prosecuted. They're never prohibited from that. Most people don't know that. So the question is, well, why are there so many confidential agreements, and yet the women don't go to the police, the victims? And the answer is because they don't want to be there in public, and they don't want to testify publicly, and they are not required to, but they are permitted to. So I'm about supporting a woman's choice. I'm not there, to bully them or to pressure them into doing what they don't want to do. I'm there to help them obtain the goal they want after they can make an informed decision about the benefits and risks of those goals.
Here's my last question for you, and it goes back to the quote that you had in that documentary, that you're in a war zone. So you've been a soldier in this war now for a long time. Do you think that you're going to put down arms at some point, take a break, let others fight this battle?
Well, I encourage everybody to fight the battle in any way that they can. Donate money, donate time, speak out on the internet, do what famous labor organizer Mother Jones said, don't agonize, organize. So no, nobody thinks that I even take a weekend or a night off, because I don't. I work holidays, weekends, all the time. I've got stacks of things for this weekend for me to do. I love what I do. I realize, life is limited. We all have to do what we can to make it a better world when we're here, and we have to inspire others to do their part. So no, I never intend to retire. We can't do everything, but each of us can do something. And that's what we all should be doing.
Gloria, really appreciate you being here on Canada Tonight.
My pleasure. Thank you, Travis. And by the way, I love Canada because you have an equal rights amendment, and we still don't have it in the United States, and we've been fighting for it since 1923.
There you go. Gloria Allred on Canada Tonight.